All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. Joining us once again, and it's been much too long, and that's my fault, is National Security Analyst Ryan Mauro from ClarionProject.org. Hey, Ryan, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me back on.
It's my pleasure. Okay, al-Shabaab. I mean, you know, you and your organization have been warning about al-Shabaab along with so many other groups, but this one recruits in the United States and has done so successfully, correct?
That's right. In fact, the latest reports indicate that about 6 of the terrorists taking part in the attacks in Kenya came from the United States.
Really? That's up to 6 now?
Those are the reports that are coming out. We originally thought it was just 3, but now the reports are going around saying that it's up to 6. And they came from around the country. So in terms of organizing this thing, this really shows the type of network that they have here.
Right. Okay. So they came from around the country, but then they went to Somalia to train, correct?
Exactly. But al-Shabaab, they not only recruit the individuals here in America, they have to finance their trips and arrange the travel. So it really is a network as opposed to just someone that gets radicalized on the internet and says, I'm just going to fly to Somalia on my own accord.
Interesting. So is there a way for our government to track? I mean, do they fly? I mean, this is a stupid question because I don't know any better. But where do they fly to? In other words, theoretically, if they leave Minneapolis, are they flying? There's no planes into Somalia, are there, or are there?
No, they usually have to go to Europe first.
Oh, okay.
But it can be done through any number of ways. Some are crossing over from Yemen. Others are crossing over from Eritrea. So there's multiple ways to get there, and al-Shabaab knows how to get their people there.
Right. So there's no way to, like, say, any, a middle-aged, young, a man from a certain area who might be going to this area. We could track where the money came from that's bought his ticket or anything. I mean, it's just too complicated to do that, I guess.
Well, they do try to do that, and they've been successful enough that we know for a fact that over 40 Americans in total have been involved in this network and been recruited among their ranks. They also are smuggling people across the Mexican border, which is a story that virtually nobody touches. But back in 2010, they arrested an al-Shabaab associate in Virginia because he was running a human smuggling ring, and he admitted that he had brought over 270 Somalis across the Mexican border.
Well, that is insane. That is insane. All right, so how do we combat this? Now, what you just hit on something very, very important, obviously, and that is the threat of terrorists, not only al-Shabaab, but other terrorists, Hezbollah and others, using the Mexican border to gain entry into the United States. And I know that they have found various paraphernalia over the years, by the border area that would indicate that they are here. And I think we know that they are here, though nobody talks about that either. But how do we now defend? Because now everybody's on high alert. Now people are scared more so than usual. It might fade away after a couple of days. But nonetheless, our soft targets are just that, right?
Right. You can't defend every soft target. If they want to hit a place, they're going to be able to hit a place. You have to catch them while they're being radicalized. You have to focus on the ideology, even if it's protected free speech. It doesn't mean you have to infringe upon those rights. You don't have to prosecute people for exercising free speech. But this is something that the NYPD has gotten in trouble for, where someone says something like, I support Hamas and suicide bombings, and then the NYPD starts conducting surveillance on them. People are saying, oh, well, you're violating their rights. That's not violating their rights. That's just using common sense. If someone indicates that they might be involved in illegal activity, you can take that into account.
Well, yeah, not only that, didn't we just have a case that was adjudicated late last week, maybe Friday? I'm looking for the story now. I know I have it somewhere, where a American went to fight alongside the rebels in Syria.
Right.
And came home. And, I mean, he got a slap on the wrist. The prosecution wanted him to go away for a long, long time, and he didn't get it.
Right. This is happening a lot more than anyone cares to really recognize. There are so many cases like that it's hard to keep track of all of them. And it's because no one is really putting it all together into a solid database and presenting it all at once so you can see these astounding numbers. And it's also because of a shift. The chief leader of al-Qaeda said the other day he issued some new guidelines for jihad. And basically what he's saying is we overexerted ourselves. We need to try to avoid conflict when we can't win. He wants to be smarter like Hamas and Hezbollah. And so these recruits are focusing on jihad overseas so that they can establish a safe harbor. And that's why the al-Shabaab networks in the United States are not carrying out an attack when you know that they're capable of doing it here. It's because they're focused on winning overseas and then coming after us.
Well, and of course by then they're counting on the fact, look how much in 5 years this administration and this president has changed the guidelines, has made it easier for terrorists, in my view. Once they're rid of Kelly and his program, it'll be easier in New York. You got a president who says we can't stick a terrorist's head underwater. Those tactics of interrogation are now gone. That whole CIA unit is gone. And today at the UN, what does the president say about the Kenya attacks? He called it a terrible tragedy. I mean, like I said, they didn't get hit by a car. They were slaughtered by Islamic terrorists who killed non-Muslims.
Well, a tragedy isn't necessarily an act of war. That's what he's trying to avoid saying, because he wants to, by his own words, he wants to end the war on terror. And so if he qualifies this as a terrorist attack, an act of war, then that makes it difficult for him to do so. And so what you're seeing here is, in terms of the semantics being used by President Obama, political considerations are overriding just sheer common sense. Al-Shabaab is at war with the United States, and the battlefield is Kenya and Somalia and the surrounding areas. And by the way, al-Shabaab's main sponsor, or at least one of the main sponsors, is actually a supposedly Christian dictator in Eritrea, and his government is not listed as a state sponsor of terrorism.
Yeah, it just gets more and more insane. Ryan, very educational. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Ryan Mauro, ladies and gentlemen, National Security Analyst at clarionproject.org. A lot of great people over there working at clarionproject.org, and we'll have more of them on as the week progresses. All right, when we come back, Congressman Peter King will join us. We'll ask him about the Americans that are allegedly involved in this Kenya attack. And then after Congressman King, I want to play for you just part of what Mariano Rivera had to say, 10 seconds. And I'm going to make a point, and I'd love for you to weigh in on that as well. Write the number down, 855-777-9660, 855-777-9660. Love to hear from you. We have a great show ahead, a lot more about this attack. And Andy McCarthy will join us, and Louis Gohmert. But right now, as we tell you, this is, of course, the Steve Malzberg Show, 855-777-9660, a free call from no matter where you're listening to the Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.
The Steve Malzberg Show.